you hear that? Do you hear those sounds? That is one angry Paula White. This is the Wolf Tracker. Tonight's show is riveting. It's going to be great. Once again, I have to document how when we first started with this program 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, in our intro, we had the recording of Paula howling. And then as of 2 or 3 nights ago, we were tracking her and recording her, and you heard howling and then growling. But tonight, for the first time, there is no howling. All you hear is complete growling. I've produced 8 programs. In my opinion, they've been biblically insightful, thought-provoking. And all of these 8 programs that I'm talking about have dealt specifically with the issue of Paula White and her new boyfriend, the rock and roller who's a member of the band called Journey. And the only reason why we've done these 8 programs is because Paula White has been trying to sell us some lies. And we felt duty-bound, I felt duty-bound, to disprove the myths, to tell you that what she has been wanting us to drink is pure Kool-Aid. And so I want to quickly do a review of those 8 programs. And I started to do these programs on January the 3rd. And my first program had to do with She-Wolf Paula White has landed a new man using Hell Potion Proverbs 9. And a brief synopsis of that program, what I dealt with in that program was that instead of Paula White doing what most godly women do, which is live out Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 outlines the characteristics and the virtues and the traits of a virtuous woman. Well, instead of mirroring, instead of projecting those characteristics, and that's how a virtuous woman lands a man. That's how a virtuous woman has men wanting her to marry them. No, the way Paula White got her new boyfriend was not by living out Proverbs 31. Quite the contrary. Paula White lived out the latter end of Proverbs 9. And Proverbs 9 is not about the virtuous woman, but the woman who acts like a slut, the woman who allows men to have free reign, if you will, and to get whatever they want before a wedding ring is on the finger. As Solomon calls her, the woman of the night, the prostitute, who beckons men to come into her chambers, and those chambers lead to hell. So that's why it was called Hell Potion, Proverbs 9, because the way Paula gets a man is by acting, living out, playing the role of a salacious woman. Then on January the 4th, another program that has Paula White just growling is the fact that we talked about and we disproved the myth that now Paula calls her new boyfriend a boaz. But we showed that that's an impossibility. Her boyfriend cannot be called a boaz because Boaz was a man who married one wife. And Paula White's new boyfriend, if he marries Paula, he will be on his third wife. So he doesn't fit the biblical description of a Boaz, and she does not fit the biblical description of a Ruth, because if she calls him a Boaz, she must be a Ruth. But she doesn't fulfill that description either, because Ruth, on the one hand, only had one husband. Thus, Paula, having going on her third, wouldn't fit that biblical description of Ruth. And also, Ruth took care of an old widow, fed an old widow, nurtured an old widow, supported financially an old widow, who was her mother-in-law. On the other hand, Paula can't be a Ruth, because the Tampa Tribune has reported that Paula didn't take care of a widow. She scammed the widow out of $170,000. So that was program number 2. So Paula's no Ruth and her boyfriend is no Boaz. Then on January 5th, which was a Monday, we talked about, the theme to that program was that we did a male survey. We asked 30 men, and we asked them certain questions about Paula White to see what they would think of Paula's new boyfriend hooking up with Paula, and the conclusion of that survey was that he was a fool, that he was a foolish man for even thinking about hooking up with Paula. Now, you can see why these shows have caused Paula to go into a fit of rage. So January 5th dealt with the male survey, and the male survey concluded that Paula's new beau is a fool for hooking up with her. Then on January 6th, we did a program, and we went over all of the results of the survey, and that program was a half hour long, whereas the previous programs were just 15 minutes. But in this program that was half hour long, that dealt with the results of the survey concluded emphatically, all 30 men said, yes, Paula White's new boyfriend is a real fool. And they outlined their reasons for coming up with that conclusion. And then on January the 7th, we had a program entitled Paula's New Beau Fooled Around and is Falling Headlong into Hell. And that program had to do with the fact that Paula's new boyfriend fooled around with the wrong woman being Paula White. And according to the book of Proverbs chapter 7, Proverbs 8, and Proverbs 9, all of those chapters talk about the salacious woman, the slutty woman, the woman who is a prostitute. And all of those chapters in the book of Proverbs calls the man who falls in love with a prostitute or a slut or a strumpet. A strumpet is an old English word for prostitute. And so in the vernacular, excuse me, in the vernacular, it would be we would call that a skank. And so in that program, Paula White's boyfriend is a fool for fooling around with her, letting her get her claws into him, and as a result, according to Proverbs 6, 7, 8, and 9, her boyfriend will wind up in the bowels of hell. And so we encouraged him to wake up and stop fooling around with her, because it was going to cost him dearly. Then on January the 8th, our show was entitled Paula's New Beau Gets Godly and Loving Counsel from Me. So I took time to outline. I gave him several things that he should do financially, how he should protect himself financially, because in the previous programs, we discussed how not only is Paula White a woman from the red light district, but also she's a gold digger. So I gave him some godly counsel some loving counsel. I reached out to him like a brother, and I said, listen, you better wake up, and these are some of the things you need to do financially in order for Paula White not to clean you out, because that's what she's after. She's after money, and Paula's new boyfriend is a multimillionaire, and so that's what she's really after. She can. The guy is 65 years old. What does he have left? She's 45. The guy's 65. Figure it out. She's just after his money. And so you see these programs in which we have been doing interventions and telling this guy to wake up has Paula furious, because Paula doesn't want his children to find out about these programs, or his ex-wives to find out about these programs, or his brothers and sisters to find out, because then they would tell him, listen, it's all over the internet, this woman is a gold digger. So now you can see why Paula's howling has gone to growling. So let's move on. Then on the 9th, I did a program on how Paula White's new boyfriend will soon discover that she's a Jezebel. And that was our second intervention program, because we did 3. That's our second one. And in that program, I enlisted the aid of the iconic, legendary Western singer Frankie Lane. And he had a song called Jezebel. And so I read the lyrics to Paula White's boyfriend, the lyrics from that song, and then we had Frankie sing it to him. And we believe that Frankie's voice, Mr. Frankie Lane, his message in that song should have wakened Mr. Bo out of his spell, out of his spiritual stupor. And so this is why we enlisted the help of Frankie Lane. And then last night we did a show on Paula White and her boyfriend, and in particularly why she's just using him as a smokescreen. Listen, as I said previous, nobody cares about Paula White and her boyfriend. No one really cares who she dates. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What we do care about is that Paula White is a false teacher. And like Cain, she's preaching a gospel that does not focus on the blood of Christ. She's preaching the same gospel that Cain preached. Cain, the son of Adam, that Cain, who brought not blood, but first fruits to God. And she's trying to get people to buy into that gospel today, telling them that they can get right with God, not through the blood of Jesus, but by bringing first fruits. So that's it, folks. These are the 8 shows that have piping mad. And I would encourage you to go to Blog Talk Radio and listen to all 8 shows. If you haven't listened, if you missed some, if you were not aware of these shows, go back to Blog Talk Radio, look up the Wolf Tracker, and you'll see that there are 8 shows, and you can review them all and see how powerful they were, how eye-opening they were, and why Paula White is fuming mad that these 8 programs are all over the internet, and how they've impacted her office staff, her church members, and her boyfriend. Tune in tomorrow as we have new programs